Hello and welcome back to Tiny Bunny. I can't help but wonder if, last time would have played out differently if we had gone with Alyssa, not with Paulina. I mean, how differently would it have played out? But either way, let's check out the next episode. Episode 3. On end, the wolf's grey fur will stand. He's the one who hated Baburin. You think he did it? I've heard he's a weirdo. I hurriedly rubbed my glasses. The glasses? Semyon was clutching them in his fist while I was getting beaten up. And in just a couple of hours, this lost item was lying on the ledge of my window. It was hard to imagine that Xioma suddenly got guilty conscience and returned my glasses in such a strange way. I was shocked, but kept walking toward the classroom, accompanied by nasty whispers all around me. That photo still stood before my eyes. Semyon has gone missing. Semyon is gone. His fat fingers will never get to my throat. His signet ring won't smash into my chin. He'll never humiliate me again. Wasn't that what I wished for? On the other hand, did I really wish Semyon to become a murky stain on the notice board? He was still someone's son, or a grandson, and he went through the same struggles as me. Did I really wish for my unseen companion to dispatch him in such a brutal fashion? I didn't know the answer. That's a conflicting feeling, but very understandable if he was such an asshole to you. Or I was just scared of it. Nonetheless, school still had something nice about it. Paulina, the girl with the violin, was like a mountain spring, like well water that you gulp down, pressing your lips against the zinc outer ring of a bucket, and can't ever get enough. Remembering our walk yesterday cooled off my head. I don't know, I still have my doubts about her. Paulina's hatred towards dogs, while understandable, was still alarming. Could a charming girl like her really be nesting something so repulsive inside her heart? I immediately remembered my dad's shady past that recently resurfaced. A person I idolized was the reason for us moving to this bleak countryside. At least he was, according to Mom's screams that were coming from the other side of the wall. Still, Paulina tried to defend me from a delinquent gang, even if she failed at it. She was pleading for Romka to leave me alone and gathered my belongings that were strewn around the forest while fighting tears. And when those bastards tried to drag her away, she resisted with all the might she had in her fragile body. In the end, she was the one to find my house, lost among the taiga, and told my dad that I lied there alone in the dark, abandoned in the middle of the forest after the beating. Maybe I'm being too harsh on her. She is just a kid. But yeah, as I said, I have my doubts. What if I make her one of the characters in the story I'll draw? The protagonist will save her from terrifying monsters. As soon as I thought of monsters, a bunch of my classmates slid down the rails, smirking like the xenomorphs from the Alien. I immediately felt larvae of fear writhe in my stomach. I didn't want to cross paths with Romka and Biasha after what happened yesterday, especially since Semyon suddenly went missing. Polina seemed eager to talk to me, but her expression soured after noticing the aforementioned duo, and she walked past, leaving me a single sorry look. I entered the classroom and went toward the last row. All of the chatter suddenly died down, so I walked there in complete silence. It felt like my classmates pushed and poked me with their stares. They carefully observed my every move. They looked at me with a mortifying mix of pity, ridicule, and derision. Like a scientist looks at an ugly representative of a newfound species of worms. I stared at the desk with a huge pile of library textbooks on top, my fists clenched. It felt like I was the one who disappeared in that snowy forest, and my desk was finally used for something worthwhile. Semyon's empty chair stood in front of me. The chair that once belonged to Bova was gathering dust somewhere in another classroom. Okay. I looked at the portraits of classical writers. My eyes stopped on Esenin's photo. Last year, I was tasked with learning any poem, and Dad suggested I learn one about the dog Jim, written by Esenin. I don't remember all these stanzas by now, but the last one was somehow deeply ingrained in my memory. I'm sure she'll come here. In my absence, please catch her eye, go kiss her hand for me. For all my real or fancied errors asking, forgiveness of her in humility. Every boy my age I knew had something like this in his arsenal. Powder firecrackers that blow up with a very loud sound. Especially inside an archway. It is said that they're produced in China, and that a single one of them can blow your fingers off if you light it up and clutch it in your hand. Especially the black corsair type. They won't be enough to blow up plastic soldiers, but when it comes to stuff made of plaster, they should work. Are you allowed to bring those to school? Anything else? An old cheap slide projector. I called this model a tank, because it looked like one. There was a time when I had a lot of cool fairy tales that we used to watch with Dad in complete darkness. I remember Little Raccoon and One Who Sits in the Pond, Kipling's Mowgli, and many others. I was immediately swept away by the memory of the projector's hum, of its hot casing, of its bright rays hitting the walls, turning it into a screen. It's a pity that the school slides were mostly about minerals and PSAs. Okay, anything else? Doesn't look like it. Okay, then let's sit down. After a moment of hesitation, I sat down at Baburin's desk, the place where I was supposed to be assigned by Lilia Pavlovna at first. The chatter resumed, as if someone has just unpaused a movie.
Бабушка Бабурина такой кипиш устроила, когда он домой не явился. Сначала в школу прибежала, потом ментов вызвала. Да-да-да.
Katya snuck a cunning glance at me, then leaned into her neighbor and whispered something. Girls from the second row also leaned in. She shared something with them too. Whispers, nods. I kept catching her stare on myself. The neighbor stared too. The whole class was watching me. It was like they felt the need to watch me because they were searching for traces of blood on my fingers. I wanted to defend myself and shout, "Guys, listen, I'm innocent." The delinquents turned around and stared at me in silence. Their looks were dripping with malice. But why? What did I do to them? Their friend went missing, and they're still focused on me. Suddenly, I noticed Biasha drilling a hole in my nose with his eyes. It felt like he was about to point his finger at me and shout at the top of his lungs, "Everyone, look! Babudin snatched his glasses yesterday, and now he has them back. Murderer!" But he remained silent, as if there was nothing special at all about my glasses. I may be going mad, but I think Biasha knows something. He knows something, but he won't tell me what. Roma gave me a meaningful glance, as if reminding me of his promise. My aching temple reminded me of it. I needed to stay away from Polina. As if looking for protection, I clutched the ruler until my hand hurt.
Не надо быть Коломбо, чтобы догадаться.
Really, Columbo?
Кто на Бабурина зуб имел?
Not where I was meant to click? Okay. Columbo, an American crime drama television series starring Peter Falk as Columbo, a homicide detective with the Los Angeles Police Department. I was just thinking, oh, you don't need an explanation for that, but I guess depending on how young you are, you wouldn't know. Now I feel old.
Кто его вчера ударил? Поиздевался, а после...
The metal ruler fell out of my weak fingers. It hit the floor with a jingle, and that made the other kids shudder. Katja bit her tongue and squirmed nervously. Chairs scraped against the floor. My classmates moved away from me, closer to the exit, toward the teacher's desk. I was not the only one to catch wind of that change. Romka and Biasha looked around and winced in contempt. Too bad that they weren't afraid of me like everybody else. Yeah, I was about to say, in a way, it might be good if the others are scared of you, then at least they won't make you the target. But then if those two are not in on that, too bad.
Да прикуси ты! Бабурин, небось, с бабкой посрался и дымился. Скоро найдется.
Найдется, ага. Во враге со вспоротым брюхом.
I gulped. I imagined Tsioma in a snowy blanket, his face, white like a fish belly, split down the middle of the crevice, by the crevice of his mouth, snowflakes falling on his glassy eyes and filling up his throat. See, I could almost hear his condescending tone. It's all your fault. But why was Semyon the only one to get his just desserts for bullying me? Weren't all of them supposed to disappear? Romka, Biasha, Katya, along with every laughing onlooker? Of course, Semyon did me a favor by disappearing. Thanks to him, my classmates now stared at me in awe. But that was only one side of the coin. What if I'll have to repay that favor soon? The door creaked. Polina entered the classroom. I straightened up in a hurry so she wouldn't see me looking like a scared critter. Polina found me with her eyes, gave me a short nod, and went to her seat. Katya rushed to her neighbors again, like a lab rat that saw a treat, and started whispering, switching her gaze between me and Polina. Messages on pieces of paper started jumping around the classroom. The ringer's trill announced the start of the class.
Так, заканчиваем бардак. Дети, встаньте. Петров, тебя это тоже касается.
Ilya Pavlovna went to her desk, followed by a policeman in a uniform. It was the man that visited us just recently, tall and his stare so sharp you could get cut on it.
Здрасте.
Здравствуйте!
Садитесь. Познакомьтесь, это старший лейтенант Константин Владимирович Тихонов. Он задаст вам несколько вопросов и проведет небольшую лекцию по безопасности.
Лучше лекция от милиционера, чем уроки.
The class leveled up. Talking to a policeman was way better than studying. I, on the other hand, was ready to sit through hundreds of hours of Russian literature just to escape the lieutenant's oppressive stare. His brown eyes felt around the classroom, looking for me. Hair stood on the back of my neck, and an icicle had lodged in my gut.
А правда, что бабурина маньяк убил?
Екатерина, ну-ка цыц! Вопросы здесь взрослые задают.
Просто нам всем страшно.
Are you, though? The way she's acting? I don't know if she's really scared. She's weird.
Может, убийца бродит где-то рядом? Или сидит у нас за спиной?
Her sly stare was directed at me. Tikhonov stepped in between the rows of desks and started walking at an excruciatingly slow pace, brushing his fingers against the chairs he passed by. Some of the students almost broke their necks following his movements. That's how a crowd of commoners would gleefully anticipate a public execution in the Middle Ages. And he just walked, getting closer and closer to me. I gritted my teeth to stop myself from screaming. Calm down. Breathe. You didn't kill or kidnap anyone. You already knew the answer to his question, but the policeman still asked in a stern voice.
Петров Антон?
Да.
Встань, Петров.
My muscles turned to stone. I got up, unglued myself from the chair. I felt like I could hear all my joints creak in the process. I only wished that Paulina wouldn't turn around and see the grimace of horror on my face. If only I could be somewhere far away, in the forest, digging myself into a snow pile, rolling up into a ball there. The officer stared at me as if he was about to lock a pair of handcuffs on my wrists. I wonder how cold these bracelets are to the touch. I imagined myself getting jailed and put into a juvenile detention center, where tens of Semyons would constantly harass me.
Я ничего не знаю. Я тут ни при чем.
А тебя никто и не обвиняет. Пока что.
Charming. Only then I noticed a file that said case number in his hand. It had a grey cover made from rough cotton. It flopped onto the desk like a guillotine blade that slid down on someone's neck. With a measured motion, Tikhonov opened the file, still studying me with his gaze. I caught a glimpse of documents and photos. They showed prints on the snow. They looked like animal prints.
Ты с Семеном Бабуриным общался?
Я знал его всего 1 день.
Все знают, Петров его ненавидел.
Nobody's asking you. I turned red. You ugly bitch. I wanted to sink my teeth into Katya's face and chew out her cheek. Wow, Anton. Instead, I replied with the calmest voice I could muster.
Мы повздорили вчера. Но он первый начал. Я его ударил.
Oh, now that's coming to bite us in the ass. Oh no.
Сильно?
Да нет, так.
I waved my hand indecisively. Tikhonov looked at my fist as if he was surprised that I managed to hit the big kid from the photo. Surprisingly, Lilia Pavlovna came to my rescue.
Бабурин проблемный подросток, с шилом кое-где. Сам ко всем лез.
The officer replied with a meaningful nod and fished out a notebook out of the file.
Это твое?
I averted my gaze. It was a math notebook with my name on it. My classmates devoured me greedily with their eyes. Devoured? It felt like even the writers on the portraits squinted at me in suspicion.
Моё.
В лесу нашли. Там же тракторист, что снег убирал в последний раз, видел Бабурина.
I started blinking in bewilderment. Romka ransacked my school bag. This notebook probably just got lost somewhere in the bushes. The lieutenant knew about the school brawl, but was he aware of the fight in the forest clearing? I had witnesses that could testify to Semyon and I walking in different directions after that. I looked toward the boys, hopeful. Romka, who sat behind Tikhonov, put a finger to his lips. And when the officer quickly turned around, he pretended to pick on his nose. I deciphered his signal. Boys like Romka would probably say something like "snitches get stitches" in a situation like this. I frantically fixed my glasses. I mean, I didn't expect them to come to my aid or anything, but it's not like they have to talk about the fight. Like, you could still say, yeah, we ran across each other in the forest. Well, of course they wouldn't. Wait, Semyon took them away yesterday, but now they're...
Так что ты делал вчера в лесу, Антон?
Я в школу через лес хожу. Могла выпасть легко.
Easily, just like me producing this half-truth.
Будь осторожнее.
Before I could realize whether it was a genuine piece of advice or a veiled threat, the teacher said,
Класс. А сейчас лейтенант расскажет о правилах, которые вам необходимо соблюдать.
Так маньяк все-таки есть.
"Don't sound so delighted."
Пока мы ничего вам сказать не можем. Но есть преступник или нет, вы должны четко помнить о собственной безопасности. Вас бережет милиция, вас опекают родители и учителя. Но в первую очередь защищать себя должны вы сами. Итак, кто там что хотел узнать?
A stockade of arms rose from the desks.
А у вас оружие с собой?
The kids shouted over each other, swarming the policeman with questions. In an attempt to calm down that chorus, he moved toward the blackboard. The grey file was left lying in front of me. I stared at it, my breathing so ragged that I might have looked like someone who just ran a 100-meter sprint. Beads of sweat rolled down my back. I looked around the classroom. My classmates were catching Officer's every word. Only Romka was saying something to Biasha. Lilia Pavlovna was staring into the window, fighting back yawns. Question out here for any Russians who might be watching. Is it so normal to talk about people in their full name? Like first name, last name, what he's doing here? Like, I've heard that before in a movie, and I was wondering about that, if that's like a Russian thing. It's interesting.
Объявлять комендантский час, причин пока нет. Слишком мало времени прошло с момента
So only options are to skip or to open the file. I'm nosy. Oh no. As soon as I touched the folder, Tikhonov lashed at me with his eyes. I thought he was busy. My hand instinctively moved away, as if that stare actually hurt. The officer just kept staring at me without saying a word, making me squirm under the weight of this uncomfortable silence and the sneering looks of my classmates. And then he suddenly continued his speech, as if nothing ever happened. Is that a timing thing? Ah, I see. Nobody paid me any mind, so I slowly opened the file, after he turned his back. My fingers started sifting through the documents. Ksenia Talaleva, 6 years old. Left her home sometime in December. Identifying features, okay. My heart almost jumped out from the ribcage. A round-faced girl, no older than Olya, smiled at me from the photo. The first victim of a serial killer? The first child to disappear in the forest without a trace? I turned another page. Vladimir Matyukin, 10 years old. Vova was the second. His mitten hanging from the branch. His name called out by desperate adults and repeated by the sneering echo. Lilia Pavlovna coughed, trying to calm down the rowdy students. I yanked my hand away, and the file closed.
Теперь поговорим о диких животных. Как известно, в наших лицах водятся волки, медведи.
I clenched my teeth from surprise, pushed myself into the back of my chair, blinking in bewilderment. The officer silently gathered the documents and gave me a stern look. Well, don't leave it on my desk if you don't want me to look.
Больно ты любопытный, Петров. И еще раз.
Caught napping. That's the achievement here.
Если вы заметите в поселке кого-то подозрительного, неважно, возле школы или на лесной тропинке, сразу сообщайте в милицию.
Yes, here, a girl with a fox mask. She seemed kind of suspicious.
Телефон-то знаете? Спасибо, ребята. Спасибо, Лилия Павловна. И это... Одноклассника вашего мы найдем.
Yeah, right. A thought flashed through my mind. Dig through enough ditches and maybe you'll be able to piece them together. Like Legos. My thoughts turned evil for some reason, and I couldn't control them. I tried to switch to the lieutenant's speech about suspicious individuals. What if I saw the killer before? What if I was a hair's breadth away from them? Suspicious people, How suspicious was the fox girl that wandered in the darkness? Told you. A weirdo that always appears out of nowhere and then dissolves into thin air with her riddles and rhymes. Could she really harm the hulking Semyon? That's what I want to know. Should I tell the officer about her? What if lives of other kids depend on this? Of the cute skin... Of the cute... Oh my god. Of the cute Xenia and Vova too? Wait, what if I get mocked for speaking out? What if they'll start whispering behind my back? Or what's even worse, think that I'm insane? Romka gave me a stern look over the shoulder. I doubt someone like him would approve of cooperating with the police. Katya's braid dangled nervously behind the delinquents sitting in front of me. My hand was glued to the desk.
До свидания, лейтенант.
Tikhonov was saying goodbye to Lilia Pavlovna. He was about to leave. It'll be too late soon. Stay silent or tell him. Yeah, I mean... Thing is, even if we wanted to tell the police, I think this is not the moment to do it in front of everyone. Yeah, no, I'm going to stay silent. No way. I've had enough of humiliation. I'll keep my head down, like a bunny. I locked my fingers and zipped my mouth. Quiet as a mouse. The bell rang. Lilia Pavlovna passed by without looking my way. Polina left after her. My classmates went silent at the same time, as if someone muted the sound on a TV. They followed me with their eyes the whole time I was passing between the rows. Judgmental looks. I felt like I was in the scopes of many sniper rifles. I squeezed through the barricade made of desks, looking for Polina. But I stumbled into my new buddies instead. Romka swaggered up to me.
Решил сдать нас ментам?
Но я ничего не сказал.
Да то подумал на.
Romka towered over me, breathing out a faint smell of tobacco.
Ты сильно ошибаешься, думая, что без Сёмы у тебя настанут веселые деньки. Мы тебя сосвету живем, понял? До скорого, очкарик.
My head tilted forward from a slap.
Вот the лохна!
I wasn't surprised to find a note stuck to my back during the break. It said, "Kick me." Wow. Classy. My nightmare clearly wasn't about to end. It's been 7 days since the lieutenant visited our class. At first glance, everything was still the same. The forest still held out its gnarly claws toward the village, and the wind whipped up white flags weaved from powdery snow every night. When my parents argued in the other room, I would turn up the TV's volume to silence their muffled voices and sit close to Olya. Volva's and Semyon's photos were still 2 black spots on the notice board, and round-faced Senya hasn't returned home too. But something did change. I could see how different the looks of my classmates were. They met me with a new portion of pokes and insults. Contempt, mockery, and loneliness became my faithful companions. But most importantly, a shadow slid across my desk, leaving behind a mysterious note. I glanced into the space between rows, but the messenger was already nowhere to be found. Who sent me this note? What could this carefully ripped out and neatly folded piece of paper be hiding from me? More threats and humiliation, or... I took the piece of paper and carefully inhaled the wafting aroma. Blackberry. Inside was a message in beautiful handwriting. I'm waiting at a dead end near the dressing room. Come alone. Drunk on that sudden call, I immediately started walking, looking over my shoulder from time to time, making sure nobody's following me. Is it gonna be a trap? Even though I suspected it could be another trap, set up by Romka and Biosha at first, this buzzing thought soon left my mind. The two of them didn't have enough combined brain power to fake Polina's notes so carefully. I didn't even notice how I almost broke into a run and jumped around the corner. As soon as I did that, I rammed into somebody inside the dark nook.
Oi!
Like a magic bird, a green notebook glided to my feet. Polina puffed her cheeks in exaggerated anger.
Петров! Да ты совсем зрение потерял.
I fixed my glasses. My nearsightedness wasn't that embarrassing anymore. I bent down and picked up the notebook.
Прости, я так торопился. Ты меня ждала? Что случилось?
Polina's attitude changed from fake anger to softness. She stood there silent, probably picking out the right words. She had a worried and sad look in her eyes, as if she hoped that I'd continue this conversation and stop us from drowning in this awkward silence. But I didn't say a word. I was just staring at her trembling lips. Finally, Polina heaved a deep sigh and started talking meekly.
Антон, скажи, ты на меня сильно злишься?
I couldn't reply before she continued.
Ох, ну конечно сильно. Что за дурацкий вопрос такой? Прости, пожалуйста, я не хотела, чтобы так вышло, честно. Когда Пятифонов, этот изверг, пнул ту собачку, это словно и не я была, понимаешь?
She sniffed, and even though it was already quite dark outside, I could notice her ocean-colored eyes sparkle.
Да, так нельзя. Нельзя смеяться над тем, как издеваются над животными. Не знаю даже, что ты обо мне подумал. Но я ничего не могу с собой поделать, Антон! Стоит мне подумать о дедушке, что он пережил в тот день, когда на него напала эта стая бродячих псов, как мой разум словно затуманивается.
Polina's notebook in my hand was still waiting for me to return it to its rightful owner, but I just couldn't find the right moment to do that.
Ты, наверное, считаешь, что я чокнутая, да?
She looked at me with hopeful eyes, while I was absent-mindedly going over all the crazy stuff that my subconscious was producing lately. I clearly wasn't qualified to judge someone's sanity.
Мне не всегда удается себя контролировать. Но я точно не причинила бы кому-то вреда, слышишь? Не то что этот садист Ромка. Антон, прошу, держись от него подальше.
Something clicked in my head. I stared at Polina with suspicion.
Неделю назад во время драки ты называла его по-другому. Ромочкой. Скажи, вы что, встречаетесь?
Polina jolted as if struck by lightning.
Еще чего? Этот урод ко мне приклеился, как банный лист. Такие, как он, не то что намеков, грубых слов не понимают.
Her voice became calmer when she noticed the bruises and cuts on my face.
Прости еще раз, что так вышло. Но я правда надеялась, что смогу помочь тебе. Зря я поверила, что у таких подонков может быть какой-то там кодекс чести. Вот, у меня есть для тебя подарок.
She unbuttoned the top of her jacket and instantly got embarrassed after noticing my stunned look. Then she took an amulet on a thick leather thread with a big animal claw off her neck and held it out to me.
Этот оберег подарил мне дедушка. Говорит, он помогает от всяких бесноватых и одержимых. Он ему от одного шамана достался. Можешь не верить, но когда дедушка забыл его надеть, с ним и случилось то несчастье.
I snuck another glance at the intensely scratched claw of an unknown beast.
А чей он? Ну, в смысле, коготь.
Даже не знаю. Может быть, медведя, а может и тигра. Кого только не встретишь в нашем лесу. В любом случае, пожалуйста, прими вместе с моими извинениями.
Okay, refuse or take it. Let me do a quick save here. I mean, I kind of want to accept it just because she's offering it so earnestly. But what if we believe that it's actually really protecting, and then, yeah, then the moment she doesn't wear it, something attacks her? That would be bad. Tricky. Could go either way. I'm leaning towards refuse.
Давай он побудет у тебя. Это все-таки ваша семейная реликвия.
That too, yeah.
Да и мне будет спокойнее, если ты будешь под защитой.
Всегда думаешь о других.
Skeptic is the achievement. But what? Does that make us skeptic? We don't want to wear it for ourselves, but if you do believe, that's what I'm saying. If you do believe in it, it's better for her to keep it, right?
Знаешь, мне казалось, что благородство бывает лишь в книжках. Пока не встретила тебя.
I felt a bit embarrassed, so I started shuffling my feet.
Скажешь тоже.
Я серьезно. А что насчет моих извинений? Их ты примешь?
Polina flashed me a charming smile, looking me straight in the eye. I turned even redder.
Да я и не думал на тебя обижаться. Было бы на что.
Polina studied me with her eyes and clicked her tongue.
А знаешь, на что ты похож, Антоша? На блюзовую импровизацию.
I blinked in bewilderment.
Это как?
Для меня все люди с чем-то ассоциируются.
И для меня, но не с музыкой же.
Вот как раз с музыкой. Бывают люди гитарные соло, или барабанный бой, или военный марш, как наша Лилия Павловна. А ты такой задумчивый, таинственный, иногда немного печальный. Ты точно блюз.
А почему импровизация?
А это когда слушатель не догадывается, куда свернет мелодия, какой темп возьмет.
Of course, some of the things Paulina said went completely over my head. Yeah, I was about to say that's quite a grown-up way to think about that. Even just to analyze the music. But I couldn't stop looking at her smile, light like a breeze in May, and her eyes, deep and blue.
Чтобы распознать в тебе музыку, нужен опыт и вкус. Это не какая-то там эстрада.
Я, наверное, вообще не знаю, что такое этот блюз.
Paulina gasped and frowned, which made her look even more beautiful.
Не произноси при мне такие слова. Я тебе обязательно дам кассету. Раньше мне дедушка из города столько музыки привозил. И джаз, и свинг, и классику. Это он подметил, что у меня склад ума, как у музыканта. Я еще совсем маленькой пыталась на бумаге записать звуки природы. Пение дождя, леса.
Эх, мне бы твои уши.
А мне бы твои глаза!
I tensed up, worried that she was making fun of me, but Paulina shook her head.
Да-да, я серьезно. У тебя глаза художника. Смотришь на вещи и фиксируешь их. Я так не умею.
Katya walked past us with her trademark frosty glare. We dove into the shadows, trying to escape it.
Теперь понимаешь, почему мы тут прячемся? Вот из-за таких, как она.
А Катька какая мелодия?
Paulina flashed me a sly smile.
Скрип несмазанных дверных петель. Знаешь, такой мерзкий дискант.
I giggled, covering my mouth. Katya didn't hear our whispers, but she suddenly glanced over her shoulder, clearly annoyed. A moment later, she sighed and went her way. I remembered about the notebook I was still clutching in my hand. I turned it in my hands. Instead of a subject name, the front side had the name of the owner and 2 words: friends only.
Любопытной Варваре кое-что оторвали.
Прости, это анкета?
Заполнял когда-нибудь?
I lied that I had. In reality, girl classmates from my previous school had never asked me to fill their questionnaires. It was quite upsetting. I mean, it was a girl hobby. You just answer a set of standard questions about your favorite actors and colors, but entrusting someone with such a notebook was the sign of friendship. And maybe of something even more. Something I only had a vague idea about.
Хочешь, заполни мою?
My heartbeat quickened.
Хочу, спасибо.
Paulina giggled.
А хотя, Там же столько секретов. Наверное, лучше тебе не знать, о чем мы, девочки, думаем.
She reached for the notebook, playing with me. I tossed my finding into my free hand. Paulina tried to intercept my move. Her hair briefly touched my face, tickling my nose with its silky locks. I sensed an aroma that immediately filled the whole world. Fragrant, alluring, lively. If only I could picture it, steal it for myself. I felt dizzy, but I gathered myself and spoke in a voice reminiscent of Lieutenant Tikhonov.
Ваша анкета является важнейшей уликой, и я вынужден временно изъять ее для изучения.
Paulina covered her mouth that drowned it in fake horror.
И что мне грозит за сокрытие улик?
Следствие покажет.
Сдаюсь, товарищ милиционер. Только обещайте ничего не читать. Здесь содержатся секретные сведения.
Боюсь, что мне все-таки придется выяснить, не влюблен ли кто в гражданина Петрова.
Paulina burst out laughing and pressed herself against my chest, showering me with the aroma of her hair and her milky skin that looked almost transparent, with tiny threads of veins running under it. Her whisper was hot, like a piece of butter sizzling on a pan.
Тогда поклянитесь, что не станете разглашать информацию.
Честная милицейская.
А теперь, Антоша, самое время поторопиться.
That was kinda cute. But I don't know, am I still suspicious of her? Hard to say. I took out the notebook during class. Skimmed through it, reading into other people's preferences. I was quite surprised to discover Romka's jerky handwriting inside. Roma Piativan, 6B, Shafutinsky, February, hanging out, buying BMW. Not Stallone, but Schwarzenegger. Don't trust, don't fret, don't ask. 3/15/87, is that date of birth? DuckTales, Biasha. Where are the questions? His letters bulged out of the cells as if embarrassed by their shapelessness. Fearsome Romka found time for something so silly. I chuckled onto my fist after I found out that Romka's favorite cartoon is not even Darkwing Duck, but DuckTales. Somewhere in the distance, a teacher was reciting pieces of Andres' Snapper. I paid them no mind. Paulina's page was decorated with flower drawings and clippings from the Cool Girl magazine. Okay, Paulina Morozova, 6B, Franz Schubert, My Birthday, Listening, See the World, Robert Schumann, Losing the People I Love. Ah, okay, so that's the fear. Okay, I guess 24th of March. Was it normal for people to be in a class with a big age gap? Because if that other page was Romka's birthday, 87... 92? Aren't we still in the 90s here? Confusing. Town Musicians of Bremen, yay! Grandpa. So I suppose the last one is like favorite person. Her favorite musician is Schubert. Her best friend is her grandpa. No. Her hobby is not violin, like I expected, but a much more mysterious listening. Can such a mundane process really be someone's hobby? Sure. I looked at Paulina over the heads of other students. She was focused on taking notes. I flipped the pages until I found a blank one and armed myself with a pen. And there are the questions. What's your name? What class are you in? Sure. Favorite music? Favorite holiday? Your hobby? What's your dream? Your hero? Your biggest fear? Phone number? Ah, okay, it was a phone number. That was strange. Your favorite cartoon? Your best friend? Anton Petrov, class 6B. I took a long time to decide on my favorite musician, until a trendy pop band, Carmen, came to mind with the cool dancers in their music video. Carmen, a Soviet and Russian techno-pop band most popular from the late 80s to early 90s, found by Bogdan Titomir and Sergei Lemok. It is mostly remembered for unique dancing performances and for writing a music theme for the Captain Pronin cartoon. Okay. Don't think I've ever heard of that. Okay, come in. Favorite holiday? This one's easy. New Year's. Okay, but why? My hobby is drawing. My dream? Going to Disneyland, I guess. My hero. My hand moved on its own, writing da. I stopped on those 2 letters. What if those who read this after me will find my answer laughable and stupid? After thinking for a bit, I decided that not everything should be disclosed on paper. That's how da turned into Spider-Man. The spelling was wrong, but who cares? That's cute. I mean, would kids find it lame if you put dad? I don't think so. Then again, I wasn't... Oh, I was about to say I wasn't a mean kid, but I sure was there for a while. Not so good memories. For a short while, okay. Your biggest fear, huh? I immediately wrote losing a person who's dear to me. Your phone number. No secret here. 30395. Your favorite cartoon. Transformers. Your best friend. I hesitated, gnawing on the pen's cap. Your best friend. I read the question out loud. It was easy, but at the same time very important. My answer consisted of 3 letters, and I filled them in the cells with care. You. You, I repeated when running out of the school. Refreshing frosty air made my cheeks turn beet red. It was bright outside, and the sun looked like a whole egg yolk. The road looked as if it was silvered. The snow sparkled under the sunlight. I smiled, squinting from the blinding whiteness. There was also something magical in my chest that beckoned me. Because friendship can grow into something bigger.
Лыс хорош рыбу тянуть.
My numb lips immediately shrank. Piasha was shuffling his feet in the middle of the yard, his boots restless on the ice.
Я не тяну.
I tried to go around him, to no avail. Lady Fortune waved me goodbye, disappearing in the early twilight.
Торопишься на?
I just having to laugh at this jacket. The North fake. Cute.
Немного. Меня папа ждет.
Я ему тиркну на пейджер, что ты не придешь на.
Pager, a wireless telecommunication device that receives and displays alphanumeric or voice messages. To send a message to another person's pager, you had to call a special line, provide the recipient's number or name, and read your message aloud. Has anyone used one? I know of them only through movies, basically. My eye flinched unwittingly. My skin dampened.
Идем на, к тебе дельце есть.
I felt chills run all over my body. I didn't like the sounds of that small business. Those words, accompanied by spitting, normally hid very dark deeds underneath them. Strangers that used to call our old apartment used to say, "Get your old man, we have a small business to discuss." The usher turned around. He looked like an astronaut in his tight hood. If I were to imagine him as a sound, he'd be a deafening whistle, a signal given by someone who stands watch. To my demise, there was nobody at the backyard. Apart from the grim-faced Romka. He stood there, his feet wide apart, with his right hand hidden behind his back. Romka's dry lips were tightly pursed. He kept shooting glances at me as he looked around. From the bottom of my heart, I hoped that Romka hadn't seen me together with Polina.
Привел на.
Вижу. Ну, здорово, Антоша.
Что тебе нужно?
He slowly took out a thin, carnivorously shiny blade from behind his back. A knife, the steel butterfly of death that flies toward the victim's heartbeat. I stepped back instinctively and rammed my back into Biasha. Romka's minion pushed me back.
А мы с Бешей хотели узнать. Ты не держишь на нас обиду?
Romka started picking on his yellow nail, looking at me with an evil smirk on his face.
Ну, там, в лесу. Мы были немного грубы с тобой.
You think?
Сам понимаешь, такое у нас воспитание на.
Да, до вас, городских, далеко. Вот порой нас и заносит.
I nodded, my eyes glued to the knife.
Скажи, Антоша, я тебя в последний раз не сильно огрел?
Да нет.
Ну и славно. А то я затревожился, что память тебе отбил, и ты запамятовал, о чем мы втолковывали.
Я помню.
The blade glowed under the setting sun, and Romka's eyes had the same evil glow. He stepped toward me. His knife traveled inches away from my coat. One movement, and steel would cut into the cloth. And if he pushes deeper...
Нам одна птичка напела. Ты опять возле Полины отирался?
I was so scared that it took me a while to remember who Polina was. My brain was malfunctioning. My knees were shaking. Suddenly, our class rep slowly walked up to Romka from behind.
О, смотрю, мальчики, вы нашли общий язык.
За мной должок, Катька.
Ой, не благодари, Ромочка. Я всегда на страже настоящей любви. Да-да-да.
I'll kill you, I swear.
Так, я не слышу. Ты к Полине подходил или нет?
Мы так болтали.
Болтать будешь кишками, когда я тебе брюхо вскрою.
The blade slid across my sleeve with its dull side and reached my collar. The wind made my face cold, but a bead of sweat still trickled from my temple.
Наверное, мне надо объяснить так, чтобы ты понял.
The split-up handle and the blade spun in a dangerous dance, just like helicopter blades that sweep away everything in their way. I tried to dodge, but the sharp edge of the blade grazed my shoulder. Grazed? Okay. I watched in shock as the blade sunk into my skin, tearing it, filling the gash with blood. The rush brought by adrenaline faded away, and the piercing pain escaped my mouth in the form of a pitiful scream. Romka pulled the knife out with a rough motion, and I ran away without looking back, trying to cover the bleeding wound.
Попробуй еще раз позабудь! Антоша!
He's mad. Gee. The aftertaste of horrible water I drank down my meds with lingered in my mouth. A cut that was covered with iodine nagged under the wraps with fluffy ends. I didn't tell my parents the truth about how I got it, saying that I just stumbled upon a sharp branch in the forest. I waited for a chance to get attention from my parents, who were always so busy. My thoughts were focused on Paulina. I wandered around the house, feeling intoxicated, and nodded to everything my sister said without trying to discern her words. Olya was talking non-stop, at times lifting up her arms and laughing, only to then suddenly go quiet and give me Mom's signature gnarly look. I was yanked out of the prison of my own mind, where seething thoughts pecked at my brain like harpies, stopping me from coming back to reality. I stared back. Olya looked like a mini version of our mom right now. Well, to be precise, she looked like the person Mom turned into when we moved here, with her intimidating posture and her eyebrows directly toward the ceiling.
Ты меня не слушал, так?
She tried spitting out those words at me, copying facial expressions of the person she spent almost all of her free time with. For a moment, I felt like the light Olya exuded all these years waned and wavered in the wind of prolonged changes. Very soon, my beautiful princess will turn into the dragon that was once guarding her prison tower. That thought was much scarier to me than any other horror sneaking up to me from the future.
Оля, прости. Ты же не сердишься, правда? Я просто задумался.
I looked around the room, my gaze jumping from one object to another like a hungry beast, trying to find anything that could distract Olya.
А давай в приставку поиграем.
Olya pouted, but there was a spark of interest in her small emerald eyes. The Snow Queen's eyes shard inside them started thawing.
А как же второй джойстик? Не работает же. А папе починить некогда.
Можем из пистолета пострелять. В ковбоев или уток, хочешь?
Ты лучше меня играешь.
Да ладно тебе. Поди целый день тренировалась, пока меня дома не было.
Olya burst out laughing. Her heart was warm once again.
Я сейчас знаешь, какая меткая! Считай, уже проиграл!
Не на того напала. Включай скорее!
Little Olya jumped toward the TV set and, after flicking the power switch, started blindly feeling around the backside of the photon, trying to plug the console's cable into the antenna input. Bits of TV shows started flashing on the CRT screen when I armed myself with a remote to look for the channel with the sought-after dandy signal.
Что дома интересного происходило?
It was a mundane question for me. I didn't put any actual meaning behind it. But Olya's expression suddenly changed. She lost all of the childish nonchalantness she worked so hard to acquire before.
Оль, что-то случилось?
My sister managed to put the cable in its place and started brushing off her dust-covered hand. She was clearly looking for the courage to continue the conversation.
Мама!
Olya went silent, and for a moment I thought I saw tears welling up in her eyes.
У нее опять был этот страшный...
My sister looked at me with wet eyes.
Приступ.
This had happened before, but it was a rare occasion. Now that we'd moved to this godforsaken place, Mom's fits rose in frequency.
Папа принес большую рыбу. Она в газету была завернута и пахла так. Бэ. А мама опять начала злиться. Потом взяла нож.
Olya squirmed, looking fearfully out of the window.
Они начали громко ругаться. И...
I froze, imagining my little sister so small and unnoticeable, standing in the kitchen doorway. She wasn't even trying to hide. Our parents just paid her no mind at all.
И потом мама ударила. Вот так!
Olya slightly moved her fist downward, imitating a strike.
Рыбу! Она была живая тоже. Ей было больно. А мама...
I mean, I'm sure Dad brought it home for eating anyway. They would have killed it anyway. It was easy to imagine what happened next. A writhing fish with a blade between its fins squirted some foul-smelling musk into Mom's face. Whenever death got this close to my mom, be it when a person was hit by a bus in front of us and the blood was smeared all over the windshield, or when Grandma chopped off a chicken's head, Mom would always get into a weird, dreadful fit. Her eyes would roll over, she would fall on her face like a freshly cut tree, and started writhing, just like that agonizing fish, turning over chairs and blurting out bits of scary sentences.
А папа, он ей помог?
Olya shuddered, as if just remembering it pained her.
Да, но вначале... Он засмеялся тоже. Так страшно, когда увидел, что маме плохо. А потом вдруг заплакал.
Olya's story made me raise an eyebrow. It seemed like the forest's oozing madness had not only completely consumed our mom, but also infected our strong and courageous dad. I quickly stepped toward Olya and locked her in a tight embrace. She dug her face into my chest, and I could feel my shirt becoming wet.
Зачем они так издеваются друг над другом тоже?
I'm sorry, Olya, your whole family is kind of crazy.
Они сумасшедшие.
Yes. I stuttered, unable to justify the actions of our parents. I had run out of words, and all I could do was hug Olya even tighter. Olya screamed and hid behind me. Was it necessary?
Переключи скорей!
No matter how many times she saw this intro, she would always react the same. Just like when she saw that owl. I mean, I also got goosebumps every time this ghastly face appeared on the screen, so I immediately complied with my sister's request. VID. A TV company logo depicting a ceramic head of the Chinese philosopher? Jeez. Guo Qiang, with a three-legged toad on top of his head. It instilled horror in the whole generation of 90s kids in Russia. Wow, I'm so sorry for you. Okay. Is there any other option here? No, just play. Okay. Finally, the game selection screen showed up for the cartridge that was bundled with the console. Too bad most of the names here were just different levels of the same game. I picked up the grey rectangular controller and started looking around the pixel letters to find the familiar English word for duck. What do you have? Goose Hunt, Tank, Small Bee, Wild Gunman, Vulnerable, Tank, Goose Hunt. Okay. Background music from the menu soothed Olya's mind, and she asked in a calm voice.
А как твои дела в школе?
Я с одной девочкой подружился.
А она красивая?
I got embarrassed.
Ну, я не знаю.
Ah, come on, be honest.
Ха-ха, ты засмущался! Значит, очень красивая.
Перестань, Оль.
Влюбился!
Оля, блин, сейчас не буду с тобой играть.
Да я пошутила! А ты нас познакомишь?
Ну, может быть.
А как ее зовут?
Полина.
А ты покраснел! А где вы будете жить, когда поженитесь?
Мы будем играть или нет?
I plugged the light gun into the second controller port, listening to my sister's laughs.
Тюря первая!
Player 1, get ready. Do I actually have to do this? No, okay. At least I hope so. Oh no. Oh dear. What was that good? It's so weird. Wait.
Ну-ка, от винта!
Okay. I mean, I'm sure I read something about a minigame, but I didn't think it'd be something like this. I'm just not good at shooting in games.
Кто на новенького?
Not me, to be honest. But okay, final round. She's beating me, but that's fine. Okay. Yeah, I usually stay away from games where I have to shoot or just fight in general, so I'm not surprised that I'm bad at this.
Пиф-паф, ой-ой-ой, умирает зайчик мой.
Big
Ты
bro.
проиграл, Тоша.
Yes, I did. Congratulations. You had more time to practice, obviously. My mom only managed to get through to me on a third attempt.
Антон, тебя к телефону. Девочка какая-то.
I sobered up in an instant and rushed to the hallway.
Не споткнись, смотри.
I grabbed the phone, pressed it into my chest, and looked at my mom. She shrugged and went into the room, gathering the toys thrown around by Olya as she went.
Алло?
У твоей мамы такой молодой голос.
А, ну да, она сама молодая.
Не мешаю?
Нет, что ты.
If only she knew how costly this conversation could be for me, what risks I took on just answering this call. There were a pen and a shabby notepad lying on the nightstand. Nightstand? Aren't we in the hallway? I picked them up and started moving the tip of the pen across paper, producing chaotic doodles that always ended up turning into hearts.
Я прочла твои ответы. А тебе действительно Кармен нравится?
Мне, если по правде, русский рок больше нравится. Но я почему-то постеснялся это написать.
А хочешь, Антоша, и я честной буду?
Конечно.
My pen drew an outline of a girl's face, her eyes, her long eyelashes. Paulina spoke in a hushed voice, probably to keep her grandpa from hearing.
Мне здесь ужасно тоскливо.
Дома?
В поселке. Здесь никогда и ничего не происходит. А если происходит, то всякая гадость.
Yeah, I've gotten that impression too.
И дело даже не в пропавших детях. Здесь музыки мало.
Но у тебя же кассеты есть.
Я не про записи. Я про... голос этого места. Он не мелодичный. Все шуршит, как патефонная игла, скрипит, воет изредка. Тут неуютно, тесно очень. Не знаю, как объяснить тебе.
My pen's tip drafted a house surrounded by tall trees.
Кажется, я тебя понимаю. Моя сестренка говорит, что чувствует себя заточенной в темницу.
Вот и я. Я очень люблю дедушку. И бросить его боюсь. Но порой так хочется убежать. Далеко-далеко.
Into the forest, I thought half-heartedly. To run under the falling snowflakes that make your fur white and the branches that hide you from prying eyes.
Я, когда рисую, будто путешествую.
У меня также со скрипкой. Убегаю по смычку в небо.
I realized I was drawing a butterfly knife. I crossed it over. Thinking of Romka ruined my mood. Before I could reply, Olya descended the stairs. She was holding some book in a pink cover, Encyclopedia of a Young Lady.
Ты долго еще?
I covered the handset with my hand.
Я разговариваю. Что случилось?
Почитай мне, пожалуйста. Мама уснула.
Иди к себе, я сейчас.
Только быстрее, ладно?
Ладно.
My last reply sounded excessively annoyed. I sighed, watching my sister running up the stairs.
Прости, надо бежать.
Мне тоже. Спасибо, что выслушал.
My ear vibrated from the buzzing sounds. I dragged my feet to the second floor, thinking of the girl I shouldn't talk to if I don't want to die from a knife wound. I wish I could tell Dad, ask for his manly advice. But he doesn't show up home until late at night because of his new job. My parents don't have time for me, to put it lightly.
Ну, где твоя книжка?
I stuttered. The kids' room was empty.
Оль?
She probably snuck into my room. I started walking down the corridor. The room was infested with shadows. The blinds were wavering, like there was someone hiding behind them. I smiled, sneaked toward the window, and threw open the curtain.
Попалась!
There was nobody behind the cloth. The window was a TV screen showing winter scenery. The lamppost, the field, and a couple of walking figures in the middle of it. Alyssa and Olya. I gasped and pressed my fist to my mouth, sinking my teeth into it. Alyssa was leading Olya into the thicket. I needed less than a minute to hurriedly dress and rush out of the house. My heart was beating like a firing machine gun. The wind carried the cold, resinous smell of coniferous trees from the forest. Freezing air crackled somewhere in the field. Two shadows loomed in front of the gate. I could only recognize them as my sister and the fox girl because of their height. I ran toward the fence, listening to the howling wind and the squeaking snow. One of the figures moved and slowly glided toward the thicket like an ice skater. I slowed down and touched my glasses, trying in vain to adjust my vision to the surrounding darkness. Worry landed on my shoulders like a weightless snowflake. A snake woke up in my belly and started writhing. I felt nauseous. I thought about my home, the flimsy fortress I'd left behind. I finally caught up to my sister, dressed only in a coat.
Оля!
Ты видел лисичку?
Оля, зачем ты вышла на улицу? Если мама узнает...
My sister froze in place, facing the tiger. She was in a hand's reach, and I put my numb wrist on her shoulder for some reason, probably to make sure it wasn't a dream. That got me. A pointy beak was directed at me, strewn with feathers that formed an owl face. Something wearing a bird mask was staring at me.
Ого, не узнает.
The voice sounded exactly like Olya's, but there was somebody else hiding behind the feathers and the curtain. I sprinted away as if I got whipped. The masked creature only pretended to be Olya, just to lure me out. I was running like crazy, drowning in snow. The house in front of me was rapidly growing. The yellow light in its windows granted me hope. My mom and sister are there, my salvation. I couldn't hear anything from behind me, as if nobody was chasing me. Maybe it's because the owls can fly? I was already climbing the porch when I noticed another figure. From the soot-black shadow of my house, a scruffy wolf cub crawled out and stood in my way. Its movements were jerky, chaotic, as if it was performing some terrifying dance, or convulsing during a stroke. And even though I could clearly see that the wolf face was a mask, something in this werewolf's convulsions made me freeze in place. The boy in a wolf's costume rubbed his side against the porch post and fell to his knees. He bent his back so hard that I expected his spine to crack. The beast's eyes shone, but he didn't attack. He kept crawling around and running on all fours. I shifted my feet, my mouth agape, trying to keep him in my line of sight. Something was trickling from the slit in the mask. Viscous drops fell to the wooden planks. Saliva. Some unknown force pushed me in the back, whispering me to save myself. The fence was flashing by at the edge of my vision. I was running, in another direction this time, toward the toothy edge of the forest that smelled of pine. My heartbeat measured time. The wolf boy growled behind my back as if he forgot his human nature. My right leg got stuck in the snow-laden cavity. I yanked it out, cursing under my breath, and fell to the ground. Plastering snow prevented me from standing up, from propping myself up against anything. But my unbound thirst for life helped me get out of that trap. Darkness was creeping closer, like the toxic fumes of burial pyres. I ran again, gasping for air that stung my throat. My hair swayed in the wind. I lost my hat when I fell down, and my ears were now hot from the freezing cold, while most of my body was still sweaty. The field finally ended. After realizing that running into the forest wasn't the smartest decision I could make, I dove into the line of trees. I ran without stopping, my face covered with one of my palms. I didn't want to lose an eye to some random branch. Branches whipped my clothes, pricked my skin like butchers that were herding a pig into the grinder. A knot of roots, sprouting from the ground, grabbed at my foot. I rammed into the scratchy trunk, slid down to its base, and looked around in a panic.
Ух, какой ты быстрый!
My first desire was to dash toward her and hug her. I resisted it and squeezed myself even tighter into the pine.
Что ты здесь делаешь?
Да вот,
She was holding the hat I lost.
в бюро находок подрабатываю. Надевай, а то уши замерзнут, а потом, глядишь, и вовсе отвалятся.
I squinted in suspicion and shifted my gaze back and forth between her and the hat, scared that Alyssa might be holding a severed head or something even more sinister. But in the end, my hat turned out to be just my hat. I took it and pulled it over my forehead.
Тепло?
I didn't reply.
Там во дворе были какие-то дети.
И что, покусали тебя, что ли?
Нет.
А чего же ты убежал?
The answer was obvious, but after rolling the thought on my tongue, I mumbled.
Не знаю.
Обещала не обзывать тебя дурачком. А я обещание исполняю.
She walked up to me and grabbed me by the elbow. I sensed the familiar aroma of mint, oranges, and burnt sparklers. I wanted to lean into Alice? Okay. To savor the minute details of her smell.
Сколько можно повторять? Со мной ты в безопасности. Я твой друг. И они.
I quickly turned around toward the place the fox girl was pointing to. Kids in masks appeared at the clearing. At least they looked like kids, since they were all pretty short. A wolf boy, an owl girl, and a bear boy. They all huffed and gasped for air, clearly tired from running around.
Я думала, ты в снег провалился. Стало снег копать, нет тебя.
А я не копал, лень копать было. А ну как получается? Если дурак, то бегай да копай. А если умный, подожди, пока другие набегаются, накопаются и устанут. И уж тогда заводи разговор.
Как я рад! Дегенерат!
А?
Не обращай внимания, он со странностями.
You're all weirdos. Every single person here. I stood there stupefied, my mouth agape and my hands dangling helplessly. I had no idea how to react to the words of these late-night guests, but I managed to squeeze out something resembling a smile.
Вы просто меня напугали.
They started looking at each other, and somebody even snorted, as if I said something funny.
Да, лиса права!
Это он.
Нет, это наш!
Неужели нашли?
Наш зайчик.
Да, похож.
The wolf boy started wagging a part of his costume like it was his tail in excitement.
Ну, конечно, ты первый! Это волчик раньше всех почуял зайчика в тебе и рассказал нам.
Здравствуй.
С нашей совушкой ты знаком не понаслышке. Не такая уж она и страшная, правда?
Да, наверное.
А этот улыбчивый бугай — медвежутка. Ты лучше с ним поласковее, а то голову откусит.
Зачем это?
Да, смотрю, ты чувство юмора где-то обронил.
I was still unsure if these peculiar little animals had the best intentions in mind, so I hid my hands behind my back, trying to look away from the gaping holes of their carnival masks. Alyssa put her hands to her sides in a theatrical manner, and somehow managed to wink with a fox face.
Когда в следующий раз придем, будем звенеть в колокольчики, чтобы ты не так боялся нашего визита.
А у нас разве есть колокольчики?
Чур, я звенить не буду. У меня лапка болит.
My smile was no longer fake.
О, зубы показал! Это добрый знак. Не не ожидала, что сможем тебя рассмешить. Я думала, это под силу только Диснейленду.
Откуда ты знаешь?
Да так, прочитала кое-где.
Про меня?
Про клюв от воробья. Про Диснейленд яхонтовый.
Ты умеешь читать по-человечески?
Зря я, что ли, в школу хожу день ото дня.
And then she sang in a coquettish voice.
Как детей не замечать, как мечты их развенчать. Учат в школе, учат в школе, учат в школе. Крепко-накрепко вломить, с детства слабеньких чморить. Учат в школе, учат в школе, учат в школе.
I let out a cautious laugh. My new acquaintances didn't seem scary anymore. On the contrary, they looked friendly and welcoming. There was something about them that attracted me. Just like this clearing, this moon, and the snowflakes that fell backwards from the ground to the sky, as if someone was rewinding a tape. The masked kids got close, and I felt their touch. They gave me friendly taps, felt my clothes, as if checking whether I was real. There was no animalistic malice in their touch, only pure childish curiosity. For some reason, I thought to myself, I can trust them. Snowflakes just kept on floating upwards.
Никто тебя больше не обидит.
Друг! Пусть только попробуют.
The fox gave me a slight tug and burst out laughing.
Ну что, Тоша, убежишь с воплями или с нами пойдешь?
Куда?
На аттракционы!
At that moment, Tiger's deceptive silence was broken by the sound of a distant flute. Mesmerizing and alluring, it brought about the ring of crystal glass and the whispers of a fresh winter spring. If I had any doubts before, the flute's song shattered the last of them. I started following my new friends before I could even make my decision. My legs carried me of their own will, and the tunnels made of pines stepped apart. Bushes bowed in front of our procession. Everything looked dreamlike. Because even the clearing we ended up on, I only saw in my dream. The flute soared up in the treetops like some fantastical bird. The snowflakes floated up in a spiral. The moon painted tree branches with silver. Alisa gasped in amazement. I was also in awe. I tilted my head backwards as far as I could.
О, красиво как.
Очень красиво.
Wolfie howled in agreement.
Это мелочи. Я покажу гораздо больше, если захочешь.
I did want. I wanted to see what the fox girl saw with her eyes, hidden in the semi-dark of her cape. Now I didn't feel weird about these masked kids. I felt weird for being the only one without a mask. I felt like I was naked in the January winds.
Скажите, а зачем вам маски?
I was trembling, but I wasn't scared. My trembling wasn't caused by the cold. It originated from the peculiar anxiousness, the anticipation of something amazing.
А тебе зачем?
I touched my cold cheek.
Но я без маски.
Обожаю человеческие сказки.
Человеческие ласки?
Человеческие дрязги.
Я же говорила. Все жители поселка носят маски. Только скрываются за ними отнюдь не люди.
И даже я?
Ты такой рассеянный, Антон.
Однажды мы уже нашли твои очки.
И шапку. И твое настоящее лицо.
I looked at the mask the fox was holding out to me. The bunny mask that looked like a silver ingot under the moonlight. I was curious to see the world through its slits. Yeah, before when they asked us to come with them, I was already kind of glad that that wasn't a choice because I wouldn't know what to do, and I'm glad this one isn't a choice either because I am curious about it, but I don't want to be the one to lead in that direction in case it ends up bad, you know? But yeah, if it's the only option anyway, I gladly take the mask. Suddenly, fighting its way through the flute's melody, a thought came to me. The glasses they found were in Semyon's possession. My new acquaintances must have known what happened to him. Or even worse.
А куда подевался Семен? Что с ним стало? И с остальными детьми?
The bear and the owl looked at each other. The wolf boy curled into a ball, and the fox lowered the pointy nose of her mask.
Тот, кого держали в клетке.
Тот, кто режет мелко-мелко. Тот, кто носит кожаное лицо, забрал их.
Умел бы я креститься, перекрестился бы.
Хотите сказать, это был человек?
Чем ты только слушал? Разве можно назвать такого, как он, человеком?
Одно слово — взрослый.
В мире взрослых так легко потеряться.
Убийцы, жестокие дрессировщики и равнодушные родители. Лучше об этом вовсе не думать, чтобы не грустить. Не знаю, как вам, а мне печалиться совсем не хочется.
И я сегодня какой-то не грустный. Антон, а ты?
А?
I was lost in thought, staring at the pines, trying to pinpoint the location of the flute. I was sure that the person who played it was standing right behind the piney stockade. Someone tall, going over the holes in the flute with their long fingers.
Так что, сядем тосковать или займемся отдыхом?
Алиса хотела что-то показать.
Давай начнем с самой сладкой части программы.
The fox girl took out a handful of candy from her pocket and handed them to each of the kids. Covers shuffled. The smell of pineapple, cocoa, and melon wafted through the air. The last treat, the chocolate-covered waffle candy, Alisa put right into my mouth. My tongue was engulfed in spiciness. I felt like my body was covered in fur and small sparks were running along it. I chewed on the waffle and the chocolate, gulped them down, enjoying the vivid taste.
Спасибо.
My gratitude was barely audible because my lips were already touching the insides of a mask. I didn't even notice how I put it against my face. The papier-mâché was warm. The mask stuck to my skin, giving it a nice prickle. The kind when you dive into a hot bath after being outside in winter, when you lie there and purr from the soapy water.
Говорила же, это твое!
Мое.
Чего стоим? За нас веселиться никто не будет.
И то верно.
The melody kept swirling in the field like a hurricane. I couldn't wait to release the energy, the heat that this enchanting music was filling me with. The owl jumped and disappeared into the sky. I heard her laughter from somewhere above, and then she landed back, huffing and sighing.
И ты так можешь! Попробуй!
I followed suit. My feet tore off from the ground. I flew toward the stars like a rocket and screamed from happiness after seeing my friends down below. The wind helped me fly. It felt like I was jumping on a huge trampoline. The stars looked like vivid sparkles that I could reach and lick up. The moon also got closer, and then I plunged. I got scared that I'd break my legs for a moment, but my soles landed softly on the ground, and I regained my balance.
С нами ты в безопасности! И все твои мечты станут явью! Я так счастлива наконец обрести тебя! Зайчик!
In a fit of merry laughter, I realized the most important thing. These four are not a threat. My real enemies, and I felt that with every single hair on my mask, were those who knew nothing about magic. Humans from the village. I also realized how alive my surroundings have become. I heard the dry grass under the snow moan. I saw faces of the trees and the stars. The trees were smirking, and the stars were grimacing in fear. That's right, be scared. I'll jump up to you and... I snapped my teeth and let out a jubilant laugh, jumping up along with the fox. We flew higher than the tallest pines and stayed in the air. I swirled. Alyssa followed my rhythm. I knew that she was smiling, so I smiled too. And the flute just kept on playing, carrying us higher and higher.
Эй, тебя что, заколдовали?
That someone is standing next to me, I thought, trying to unglue my chin from the dusk. My muscles felt slightly sore, but that feeling was pleasant. The whole class was wandering about for some reason, whispering and passing notes to each other. Their faces looked like discolored masks to me, bleak and boring. I yawned, remembering the time I was soaring high above the forest, with Alyssa by my side, laughing and squeezing my hand. Probably, it was all just a dream. Because I didn't walk back from the forest, just woke up in my bed on a normal morning with tea and medicine. Still, I was hardly worried about trying to find a rational explanation for my night dance. That feeling of flight was much more important. That was quite something, and I was wondering, is it a dream or not? But Alyssa was there, and at some point I was also wondering if Alyssa is Paulina? I mean, it wouldn't have made sense for that when we met her and Alyssa was feeding the dog, but I don't know, masks. The knowledge of how it feels to be hanging in the air above the treetops of majestic pines and baring my teeth at the moon.
Прости, задумался.
Слышал уже про Катю?
А?
Yeah, I was wondering right now, is someone else missing? Is that it? I glanced at the empty seat in front of me.
Катя пропала.
My sleepiness was gone in an instant. I frowned in suspicion.
Как пропала? Быть не может.
Attention, child missing. Katya Smirnova, 12 years old. Grade 6B was last seen during the day on January 16th at the schoolyard. Identifying features: 155 centimeters tall, green eyes, light brown hair, lean build. She was dressed in a fur-hooded coat, a knitted hat with a pom-pom, a white scarf and gloves. Special identifying features: wears a strawberry-themed scrunchie. If anybody has information on Katya's whereabouts, call the following numbers. Police and Katya's mother.
Катя!
True Detective 3. Thank you for completing episode 3. We are deeply grateful for everyone who purchased the game in early access. All the profits will go toward further development of the game. Yeah, I mentioned this before. This is early access. Okay, few things to talk about. Achievement Detective 3, that was for, because I got the Detective 1 in the first episode for clicking on all the objects that you can look at. I didn't get this in episode 2, so I missed something. And I'm wondering, did I really just miss something to click on? Or was it because maybe you have to play a different path in order to see everything? I mean, I will find out one day, hopefully. Yeah, that scene there with the kids, quote-unquote kids, I'm still not sure if they're really just kids in masks. It just seems also strange. But there was a really cool scene where suddenly everything was in color for the very first time in the game. It did kind of put a smile on my face, and then it got a bit dizzying with the moon and the trees. But okay. It really fit the scene, right? And yeah, I'm not sure if we can trust them. Anton seems to think so. I don't know. Also, at some point, I wasn't sure if maybe because of us choosing Paulina in episode 2, we would not get any Alyssa scenes this time. Like, I'm not sure how much of the story has like common root, or how much, like how different it really plays out. Is it just certain scenes that are different, or can we change the whole plot with our decisions? But yeah, that's something you can only find out if you play it and check out all the different options. Curiouser and curiouser. Yeah, oh, and I mean, I think this goes without saying, but if someone bullies you to the point of stabbing you with a knife, get help. Tell someone. Like, that's just... I mean, even before I would say it has gone too far, but that... Veronica is just dangerous. And I'm also wondering if those are just kids with masks, are they kids that we know from school? Or are they the missing kids? Like when they all stood there in a row, I was thinking if maybe the bear is Semyon. And as I said, is Alyssa Paulina, or is she really a different girl? The other two, I'm not sure. It's very strange. Very, very strange. And I mean, I like it. I like that it's not super obvious, or maybe it is obvious and I'm just not getting it. Can also happen. And again, of course, the themes of... Yeah, I mean, what they said, right? No, oh, let's not think about the adults, or like the adults are the worst. Yeah, because Anton is experiencing shitty stuff in the real life world. His parents fighting and being neglected. Bullies at school. Like, of course you want to escape from this. Plus, he's taking some pills, so there is a stress factor that might make him imagine stuff. Who knows? I do always find it interesting when a story doesn't right out tell you if something you're seeing is actually happening or if it's just inside your head. But yeah, that is it for now. That was episode 3. Episode 4 is still in the making. I didn't find a planned release date, so... But yeah, it shouldn't be too long. I hope. Yeah, I will go on playing once episode 4 is out, but I cannot promise when that will be. So for now, that's it from me. Please let me know what you thought. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye bye!